Bam! Welcome to Jayson Waller Unleashed. Real talk, real success. I'm host Jayson Waller, former billion-dollar business entrepreneur, elite business coach, two-time top 5 podcast host with the BAM podcast and the True Underdog. You might know me from my TED Talks, best-selling books, or even my brand new reality TV show on Amazon, BAM Fam. Are you hungry for inspiration, wisdom, perhaps a hearty laugh? Get ready for a dynamic, electrifying journey filled with towering business triumphs, intimate family moments, and raw honesty that you won't find anywhere else. Buckle up. This is about to get dope as hell. I'm telling you, I have had all kinds of guests on my previous shows, and we're going to have some bomb guests on this. We're going to be talking about everything from politics to money to business to family to drama to kids to you name it. We're going to talk about it. It's going to be real. It's going to be raw. It's going to be in your face. It is Jayson Waller Unleashed. Real talk, real success, coming now. Bam! Bam! Jayson Waller here with Jayson Waller Unleashed. That's right, the fastest top growing podcast right now to bring you everything from money to energy to life to politics to business to overcoming adversity. And today's episode is about devastating loss and becoming the storm. That's right, you got to be the fucking storm. I always talk about you want to have a buffalo mindset, right? Got my buffalo right here. It's got some cool things in there. So you got to have this mindset of a buffalo, but sometimes you've even got to evolve to becoming the storm. And I'll get into that in a minute. So let me talk a little bit about, for the new listeners out there following the podcast, first of all, I appreciate you following me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, all of those things. I appreciate that. Keep doing that. But for the new listeners out there, and I know we've got a handful of you guys, let me kind of give you a history lesson of a little bit about what we've been overcoming here and my background. So I am the guy who lost $1 billion business. I'm the guy who had to lay off 2,400 employees. I'm the guy who had 40,000 customers wanting to own their power, to put a dent in the universe, to make a difference in the world, have a cleaner, more sustainable world for humanity, and left those customers hanging, and we had to close the doors. And it cost me about $400 million. You know, cash-wise, personally, I had to put several million into the business to wind it down and pay the final payroll. And, you know, I get questions all the time like, dude, how are you not jumping off a bridge? And how are you surviving all of this? And how are you able to manage through all this? And, you know, the truth be told, it's hard. I didn't even know what depression was until this happened. Those are facts. Like, you know, I think if I had depression, I didn't know I had depression. But after this, I knew I was depressed. I felt like, you know, I don't lose often. And, you know, we always have had good intentions to better the planet, help customers out to own their power, and to build a wonderful company with a great culture. And I think we did that for several years. For 8 years, we did that. You know, we built this company from the ground up, and it was my third company I was involved in. The first two were home security, did really well with exits. And this one, you know, we built all the way up from the ground up, and we had $1 billion valuation. We had over 54 offers for the company, 52 public offers and 52 private offers and 2 public offerings. And we had a letter of intent to go public in summer of 2022. For $1.05 billion. People like, what does that mean, go public for $1.05 billion? Well, that means we were taking the company public and it was going to be valued at $1.05 billion. That's what that means. And my stock, my options in there was north of $400 million. And, you know, what was cool is we were going to give our employees about $100 million in stock options. We had them all carved out, what employees were getting what. So it's going to be cool to have some employees become millionaires, been with us for years, change their lives. And it's just unfortunate because the media, you know, took something they didn't understand, because solar is a very complicated business. It's a very, it isn't just, hey, I buy this and I walk away at the grocery store. Like there's a lot of things that happen. Like you purchase solar, you have to have a design done. You have to have a structural letter done. You have to have an engineered stamp done. You have to get interconnection done to have permission to operate with the utility company. You go through the proposal of looking at customers' usage and what they use in their power, and maybe time of use plays a part of different times they use that power. You have to measure the system correctly. You have to design the system correctly. You have to put the system in order to try to combat what they're, to reduce some of what they're using so they're able to utilize the sun's energy and create some of their own power. Then you're able to utilize a battery to be able to store some of that power and use it at a different time against time of use and or in case there are power outages. For some of you are like, what the fuck is he talking about? My mind is blown. Basically, the solar business is complicated, but we had it locked in. Our reputation showed we were the best business out there for 8 years. We're the fastest growing. We're the largest American-made solar panel company installing American-made panels. We had more battery installations than any other solar company out there. We did everything the right way. We had 5 NFL stadiums that got solar from us. We had a Major League Baseball stadium that got solar. We had a college stadium that got solar. And like I said, almost 40,000 customers raised their hand, wanted it. We had over 2,500 reviews and over 1,000 testimonials all over the internet of how much they loved our company and loved the product. And then one day, there's a product liability issue. A part starts failing. We realize there's an issue with a fire. We address the issue like, hey, what's going on? Why is this one off with the fire? The fire marshal out of the state of Kentucky said they believed it was the snap 801 Generac part. Basically works as it's a kill switch to turn off the solar, but it also works as an ignition switch. The sun powers onto the panel as DC. This thing has to be turned on and wired correctly. Remember what it said? This thing has to be turned on and wired correctly to work, to send the juice down to the inverter, where then it's converted to AC and used in your home, and it can go into a battery or go into your home. So these are wired correctly, and what happens is they had in their switch, they had an issue with bulging and fires. And so, when the first fire happened, we were confused. We never had a fire before, and all of a sudden there's a fire, and the fire marshal says, this is this Generac part. So we called Generac, and they're like, it's the first we heard of it. Later on, we get an email from a competitor of ours that also installs Generac saying they're having customers having issues with these Snap 801s. And we didn't know of any issues, just this. And so we shared it with Generac. They said, this is the first we're hearing it. We're investigating it. A couple days later, another fire happened in South Carolina, and nobody got hurt. Generac was quick to pay these customers back for their fire. And we were like, there's a problem here. And so we got on the horn with their executive team immediately. And they told us that they realized there's an issue with bulging and them overheating, and that this firmware software would prevent that from happening. Didn't say it would do anything else. They said, look, that will prevent that from happening. We're all good here. We're like, are you sure? Remember, this is a publicly traded company worth $12 billion. We're like, are you sure? They're like, yes. Okay. Got emails, all of that stuff, right? So we entrusted. They're our partner. We had partners in other areas for products. We had different panel companies. We had this, but we entrusted Generac. I mean, Generac approached us in 2020 and said, look, you guys are solar machines, man. You guys are crushing it out here. We'd love to be part of your movement. We'd love to be part of your deal. We'll help you with marketing. We got this battery that we just bought that we're going to put out. It's a Generac battery now in storage. We can take this to the next level. So we were super excited, and we partnered with them, trusted them. And it was a good partnership until it wasn't. And so in 2021, when this started happening, they sent this firmware. We thought all things were good. We continued to sell their service. And at the end of 2021, we started to get complaints, started to go up. And as we wind down 2021, going into 2022, we're in transaction mode, meaning basically, we were talking to a bunch of private companies and public companies about what to do with the company because we were exploding. And we were talking to the Goldman Sachs, the Blackstones, the Sunruns, you name them. And we had offers all over the table, but we had an offer from a company to do a reverse merger. And what that means is basically they have cash on the balance sheet. They're going to bring the cash into the business. We're going to have the valuation of the business be $1.05 billion. We're going to go to the public market at $1.05 billion and assign the shares out and have cash on the balance sheet, which helps the value. It's a fantastic opportunity for the business, for the industry, for the employees, for everything. Customers, as we continue to grow, be part of, be a customer of a big, flourishing, growing company. And our phone calls went from about 800 to 30,000. 800 phone calls in a month to 30,000. And all of a sudden, services, and complaints, we were less than 230 or 50 complaints on the Better Business Bureau in 8 years to 1,100 in 1 month. Something was wrong. And we're trying to figure out, the customers are saying, my system doesn't work. It's not producing. It's not making any energy. What you sold me doesn't work. And we're trying to figure all this out. After about 45 days of investigation and repairing and replacing these parts and seeing that all of these parts were ones that were burnt and that they had the firmware, came to conclusion, and Generac admitted that, the firmware actually governs the system. It stops the system from producing the power it's supposed to. So imagine this. You have a solar system with 24 panels and you have 3 arrays of 8. And one of these units is failing. Then that entire array of 8 is shut down. If one's failing on another one, then that array is shutting down. So basically, a third of your system's working. Well, they had a 41% fail rate. So you can do the math. If they had one of these on each panel, which is 24, then they were close to about 10 or 11 that were failing, which means more than likely 2 or all 3 of your arrays weren't producing. And you don't know, it doesn't alert you. They would have a lockout on the screen that they'd never heard of, that we never heard of, called PVRS lockout. And this would be going on for several months, and you are paying your solar bill, and you're paying the utility company for power, and there's no savings there. And so you're getting upset with the company who sold it and installed it, which is us. And you're getting upset with the face of that company, which is me. And you're getting upset because you're trying to call in and there's 30,000 phone calls coming in at one time. Now, this isn't 30,000 customers called in once. This is 30,000 in a month that called. It was probably 8 or 10,000 customers called multiple times, compared to a couple hundred customers calling a couple times. That is the magnitude that this happened. And Generac took some ownership, sent out a letter, and should have taken more ownership, should have done a national recall. We asked for it at the beginning when we found out about all this. We asked for it during this process. They continued to hide from the truth. They weren't divulging all the information they knew. We believe that they hid a lot of things from us and kind of used us as the scapegoat. And we believe that during this process, as this became bigger, they kind of just let us fall. And it ended up costing our company around $190 million in 2022. And we did everything we could do to survive and stay open. We had layoffs and adjustments. And we even got to the point where we changed companies we were selling to and filed a lawsuit against Generac for over $1 billion. And the things turned around. The sales were back up. The BBB gave us our A+ rating back again, everything. And they cited that we quit using Generac. So things were on the up and up. We ran out of cash. And for those out there that have a business, you ran a company, you run out of cash, that's it. And I've opened companies before and lost money the first 2 years usually when I open a company. It takes a couple years to be profitable. So you got to have some cash to invest in it. And I've been blessed. My first company, I didn't have any cash, but second company. But with Power Home, we lost money the first 2 years. It took time. We started making money year 3. I put everything I had into it. And, for those out there listening and watching, this is what happens. Like when you run a business, like you don't forecast a storm coming, right? And this storm came, and we could have ran for the people like, why did you keep using Generac? Well, we didn't want to leave 40,000 customers. Well, it was 20,000 Generac customers stranded, not doing anything. So we were trying to fix everybody we could. And Generac was assuring us at the time that their 801A, which was a replacement with the firmware, was a fix. And then they lied about that and said, oh, that was always a temporary fix. Here's the 802. And that's when we realized we're going to have to sue Generac because they're lying and they're hiding things from us. But we couldn't just abandon those customers. So we actually went from a sales and installation company to a service company. And during that time, your intentions are to right the ship for these customers, and that Generac's going to do the right thing because clearly they're a big billion-dollar company, multi-billion-dollar company, and they've got to be accountable to shareholders. They can't just lie, cheat, and steal, they can't just allow a company to fall on their faulty product and customers to be lost and confused and blame their dealer for that. You would think that wouldn't happen, but it did. It happened. I'm living proof that it happened. All those customers are proof that it happened. All those employees are proof that this happened. And it made me realize some things like, that I didn't realize before. And the first 90 days we closed, I was angry. Oh, I was angry. I would have loved to have been in a cage fight with Aaron Jagfeld from Generac for free. Shit, I'd have paid everything I had in my life just to be in a cage with him because I felt like he was just evil and wrong and not taking responsibility. And I was upset. My family was getting harassed. We were getting death threats. This brand that we built as a great organization and company and converting to pink energy, which was even more thoughtful and purposeful in this world, just died. And then my brand was tarnished and painting me something I wasn't. And it was hard to deal with. It was stressful. It created depression. And for those 90 days, I was angry and I was lashing and I was like, I wanted everyone to know the truth. And I got defensive. Like, you got to know. And I was sharing every little thing on Generac. And I look back and I'm glad I did, because since then there's 5 class action lawsuits against Generac on this. 5, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5 in multiple states that we're not even in. That means Generac had this problem with other dealers, like I mentioned earlier, and that these customers in these other states we weren't in, they know there's a problem. They all filed class action lawsuits. Class action lawsuit in Florida, we weren't in Florida. Class action lawsuit in California, we weren't in California. Class action lawsuit in Wisconsin, we weren't in Wisconsin. Class action lawsuit in North Carolina, we were in North Carolina. Class action lawsuit in Michigan, we were in Michigan. So 2 out of the 5 states were our states we were in and our customers. That says something, right? Eventually, karma and the accountability circle have to come into play. The other thing that they've had is a securities fraud lawsuit against them and their executive team for not being truthful about the faulty part, being dishonest, and then not sharing how big of a partner we were to them on their renewable energy space. And those are things that had I not been vocal about, they may have got away with a lot more. And so at least now truth and justice is coming out. And for 90 days, I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do in my life. It was an identity issue for me. And I had the mentality during this process when the storm was hitting with Generac. And I've always had this mentality in life, no matter what has conspired in my life, whether it be I first opened up my home security company and things are tough and I've got to go through these things and not run from a problem, but hit the problem head on and win, or whether it be I open the solar company and it's tough and we lose money the first 2 years and I sell my dream home to put money into this business and I can either run from the business or close it, or I can keep, pushing through to get to the light. And I bring this up as the biggest difference between a cow and a buffalo is this. When the storm comes, when the problems in life come, when insecurity comes, when anxiety comes, when fear comes, when doubt comes, that storm's coming. Cows, people with cow mindsets, they run away. They run away. And when they run away, that storm just follows them. That anxiety, it follows them. That fear, it follows them. That pressure, that doubt, that depression, it follows them. That insecurity, it follows them. And what do you think happens? That storm sits over them longer than it needs to. They're living in the storm longer than they need to. And I learned at a young age, I don't know how, maybe it was the hard work ethic my parents had, because I didn't come from a perfect family. My dad was total blue collar. My mom was blue collar. Neither one of them finished high school. My dad worked at AT&T at a plant making, Corning cable for AT&T. My mom was a cake decorator, and then they both worked at an AT&T bill center. And I helped my dad deliver papers when I was in high school so we could make extra money. I learned work ethic from them, but I also learned that you don't quit and that you don't run from things. My dad always used to tell me, son, don't ever start a fight. You ever start a fight, I'm going to kick your ass. But you know what? You better finish it. That fight comes, you better finish it. Don't you run. You finish it. And that's kind of having a A buffalo mentality. Let me tell you what a buffalo does. When that storm's coming, that anxiety, the depression, anger, that rage, that fear, that doubt, all of those things, when that comes, a buffalo runs towards it. Says, screw this. I'm not going to wait and have the storm just pound on me. I'm going to fight through this battle. I'm going to get through this battle to see the blessing. I'm going to push myself right through this full speed ahead to get to that sunlight, to get out of this storm. And that has done me well most of my life, having that attitude, having that mentality. That has helped me tremendously throughout my life, of having a buffalo mentality. And so I got this buffalo skull right here that has all these other little skulls carved out in it, and these black stones on this next to my friend here, Zara, on the thing. But let me explain what happens. I love having a buffalo mentality. I tell my kids, got to have that buffalo mentality. I tell my wife, I tell my friends, I coach it, I preach it all the time. Buffalo mentality. But every now and then, you have to have a storm mentality. You actually have to not be the cow and not be the buffalo. You've got to be the storm. You're the one who's got to create the havoc. You're the one who's got to turn it upside down. You're the one who's got to dictate what's next. You're the one that's got to go out and put out and draw your map and create it. You're the one that's got to start taking those levels and taking those steps and not letting the outside world dictate what's going on or fighting through it. But sometimes you've got to create the disruption. Sometimes you've got to create the change. You've got to make a difference in this life. How many times in this world do we see people all the time come through and they disrupt this world? They change the whole world. I mean, I could name so many people. Martin Luther King, Thomas Jefferson, the list goes on of all of these inventors, creators, Elon Musk. I mean, these people that go out there and they just disrupt the world. They are the storm. There are lots of buffaloes, and I've been a buffalo my whole life, just fighting through. And maybe you're a cow and you got to get to that level, being a buffalo and fighting through and have that buffalo mindset. But being the storm is when you graduate from being a buffalo and you're like, you know what? I fought all my battles. Now I'm going to create everything. I'm making my own battles now. And that's what I had to do. I had to dictate, who am I? Who is Jayson Waller? What do I do? Where do I go? I get up, I get in my car, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I had this podcast. I've actually had 3 top 5 podcasts. This is the 3rd one. First one was True Underdog. It was fantastic. Had so many cool guests on. Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders, Darren McCarty, Kevin O'Leary, Eric Thomas. Then I went to the BAM podcast. I had cool people. Wes Watson, Eric Thomas, Mark Wahlberg, stuff like that. Was just great. Sugar Ray Leonard. Then I go to Unleashed. I'm not talking about business and money, and I'm not talking about being the underdog. I'm talking about being unleashed. And part of that unleashed mentality is being the storm. I still tell people, if you're a cow, you're living life like a cow, you need to get to be a buffalo. If you're a buffalo and you continue to defeat all these storms, and then there are no more storms, you better become the damn storm, because you can't sit in silence. And I say, as I'm running out of time here on the show, failure is fuel. Losing $400 million hurts. Losing those employees hurts even more. And upsetting and leaving those customers hanging hurts the most. And what can I do with that? I've said sorry. I'm still sorry. I wish there was more I could have done. But what can I do? I'll tell you what I can do is I can use it as fuel. I coach people on how to be redundant, not trust your partners all the time. Make sure you look into things. Make sure they do their due diligence. Generac told us so many times, we should have done more due diligence. This was after everything started. This is on us. We should have done more due diligence. They said that time and time and time again after this problem happened. What they should have done was a national recall. And I became smarter. And look, they ruined my company. Okay. God always has a plan. I hate it for these customers. I hate it for these employees. I don't know what that means, what this plan is, but I couldn't control this plan. And that's what dictated me of, hey, sometimes you got to become the storm. So you know what I'm doing now? I'm teaching people not to put themselves in this position. I'm educating people on what to look for in vendors, how to scale their business, how to take failure and turn it to fuel, how to take problems and make it motivate you. We weren't profitable last month. Good. We'll be profitable this month. We got something to strive for. When you get to the top of the mountain, sometimes you get complacent. Sometimes you get comfortable. And for some reason, I flourish when I'm uncomfortable. I always say my old man, as much as I love him, he has struggled. He's always played it safe. He's played it to not fail, not played it to win. And I want to play to win. And you can't win them all. In fact, you lose more than you win. People don't ever talk about it. And I lost big. It hurt. It still hurts. It crushes my heart every time I think about it. It's like, it's devastating. And I know I've got haters out there that paint their own version of me, and there's nothing I can do. I can't fix that. I can't change their mind. I can't do any of that. But I'll tell you what I can do is I can turn this pain. I can turn all of the depression and the devastation and all of the failure into fuel to make a difference, to change lives, to educate people, to share the knowledge on the Generac situation for other solar companies out there. But to really the businesses I'm building now, what to look for, I still want to impact the world. I still want to be part of something great. And I share this story with you, not to talk about me, but to tell you maybe you're in a situation like I am. Maybe it's not at the scale or the magnitude, but maybe you've got something going on in your life right now that you just need the kick in the ass, that you just need the, yes, you can do that. You just need the courage. You just need the map. You just need to know that you can turn the failure to fuel. You just need to know that you need to be the storm. You just need to know that you got to have a fucking Buffalo's mentality. You just need that to go to the next level. Maybe you're in a situation right now in business, at home, with a relationship, with a job, whatever it is. Maybe you needed to hear this today. It's all relative. It doesn't matter how big my company was and how small yours is. It's all relative. Guys, the decisions we make, the things we learn about our decisions, the motivation behind our decisions, how we want to get somewhere, keeping integrity and your morals in place, making sure you're focusing on the prize, making sure that you're wanting to better this earth, making sure you're wanting to elevate people. It's all the same, whether it's a small scale or a big scale. People ask, why do you do the podcast? Do you get paid for it? I don't get paid anything. It costs me money. I do the podcast because I meet people out in the lobby and like, dude, I listen to your show and it's totally motivated me. Or I meet someone at a gas station, like, I love your show. I completely have decided to open my own business. Or I get a DM, dude, I had one truck cleaning cars and now I got 5 because I wasn't scared. Like, that's why I do the podcast. I do the podcast so I can share knowledge. And I do the podcast because of the great guests I bring on that I get coached from them and I get to coach them. Like, it's mentoring both ways and I build the relationships. That's why I do this podcast. That's why I'm out here sharing real, authentic, raw information. And that's what the whole show, Jayson Waller Unleashed, is about. So, and we've had a lot of things going on. I'm going to wrap it up right now. I got to get on this call. We got the Bam Fam filming. It comes out in December on Amazon. Make sure you're ready to watch that. It is going to be off the hook. It is real. It is raw. It is drama. It is, everything. It gets to dive into this Generac issue and losing $400 million. And how does it impact the family and the chaos that at the Waller's house of what goes on in each character, each person, each one of my kids and my wife, and how they play a role in their life and how crazy batshit nuts they are. All these things going on that you can enjoy. So thank you. Continue to subscribe. That's a wrap. Bam!